my name is Rami and welcome back to another episode of RP's Garage, an automotive YouTube channel where I teach you the ins and outs of automotive knowledge so I can save you a ton of bucks on car maintenance. And in today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to properly flush and refill the coolant system in your vehicle. Now behind me is a 2014 Toyota Camry, and this process can be used in almost any Toyota product, whether we're talking a Tundra, a Camry, a Highlander, any Toyota product will roughly have the same process. So for those of you who are wondering what a coolant system is, I want you to think of your engine, and when you turn it on, inside your vehicle, you have four main gauge clusters in front of you, right? You have the speedometer, you have the tachometer, your RPMs, you have your gas, and you have your engine temperature. And if you don't know what that looks like, it'll be right here displayed on the screen. So that gauge will increase when you're driving.
So here's a quick example of what normal operating temperature looks like. The needle should be right in the middle between the cold and the hot, and it's going to be roughly around 90 degrees Celsius or between 195 to 220 degrees Fahrenheit. Just a little engineering FYI for you guys.
And in order to keep your engine cool and not overheat, the coolant liquid keeps your engine cool. Now with time, coolant can deteriorate. The chemicals and the composites in the fluid can break down and not work as properly, thus being dangerous for your engine. So I'm going to show you the proper coolant you'll need for this Toyota and most Toyotas and teach you how to properly flush and refill your coolant. Let's get after it. So for this job, you're going to need a 10mm socket, a funnel, and a drain pan, and of course, the proper coolant. First thing we're going to need to do is work on a cool engine. Make sure your engine is nice and cold. You don't drive it for a couple hours because the system will be pressurized and you don't want to open the lid when it's pressurized. So after we locate our coolant cap, we're going to take it off. We're going to locate our reservoir, take out the accessory hose to it, make sure it's drained. And the reservoir is held by two 10mm bolts. Just like that, you should just pop it right out. So now we're going to take our drain pan and just drain out the old fluid. And then we'll take the drain pan and put it underneath the car to the right hand side. We're going to go and look at the bottom of the engine. Trying to make it focus, guys. So if you see that little nozzle right there, that little small guy right there, that's called the petcock nozzle. And once we loosen that, that will flush the fluid fully. So let's get down there and let's open it up. All right, so we're gonna reach down. Like I said, the engine's cool. I got my finger right there in the petcock valve. And we're just gonna start and unloosening it. You don't need to take it off, just unloosen it. Coolant is being flushed. And we're just gonna wait until it's all drained. While the coolant is flushing, there's actually a little hole made specifically for this service in the splash guards. So you don't need to take anything out. Just loosen the petcock valve and it'll flush out on its own. So as the coolant is getting drained right now in the pan, we're gonna take the reservoir and just rinse it with some water. Just so that there's no extra gunk, no extra old coolant. We don't want anything to mix in with the new one. So while the petcock valve is still open, just get a hose and just spray a little bit on the inside, just so that it can flush down any excess fluid. All right, guys, so now we're gonna talk coolant. So coolants have many different colors to them. They all do the same thing, but they have different purposes for different vehicles. You need to use the proper coolant for your vehicle. And for this Toyota, we're going to use, it's called Asian Vehicles. It's antifreeze 50-50 mix, so you don't need to add any water, you just fill it in. And we're using Asian mix because if you see on the label, it says Lexus, Scion, and Toyota from 1990 and up. So this is gonna work for any Toyota product. Now you can use yellow coolant like this Prestone, but it's not gonna be the proper coolant for your vehicle. You always wanna use the proper coolant for your vehicle, and it's safe for the engine. So we're gonna open it up, and we're gonna fill it. So now let's reinstall the coolant reservoir. Put back in the two 10mm bolts, and our cleaned out reservoir with no gunk and no old coolant. When we're gonna pour new coolant into the system, we just wanna make sure that petcock valve is just hand tightened. That's all we need. Nothing much, nothing too tight, just hand tighten it. You guys might be thinking there might still be some leftover coolant inside the system. And although that is true, there's just a little bit of coolant left, because as you can see right here, this little pipe goes straight to the engine block, and there's so little fluid in there that we don't need to flush it out. Now, if your system was gunking up or had some jelly liquid, then you'd need to fully flush out your system, and you can buy some kits from your local parts store. But we're just doing a simple service. Make sure you shake the bottle, because all the additives could be at the bottom, and just keep it evenly shaken. But yeah, it's real simple, guys. You just fill up to the top. Once we're done filling up the coolant system, we're just gonna fill up the excess reservoir. We're gonna fill up the coolant reservoir until the F level. And there we go. Now, once we filled up our system, we're gonna turn on the engine, and we're gonna see right away that it's taking away some of the coolant. We're getting air bubbles out of the system. We're gonna turn the car on for about 10 minutes, put the heat on high. When the heat is on high, it'll take away the majority of the work, push it in to the cabin, which will then take more of the air bubbles out of the system. Whenever it gets too low, just add more coolant.
And right away, we see that I'm putting more coolant into the radiator. As the air bubbles and the air pockets come up because oxygen rises, we can see that more fluid is going into the system. So yeah, enjoy my awesome flow. Oh, a little bit of a spill there, but yeah, we filled it up and it's looking great.
So once we're inside the car, we're gonna look and see at the temperature gauge. Now, my dad has this really fancy LCD temperature gauge, but once that temperature gauge gets in the middle, and we're gonna keep it there for about 10 minutes or so. Yes, the heat is on high. Yes, it's 81 degrees outside and it's really hot, but in order to bubble the system properly, we need to see the engine is at operating temperature, which is right in the middle between C and H, cold and hot. So we're gonna wait about 5 to 10 minutes until the system is fully burped. There's no more air bubbles or air pockets in the system. So now that the vehicle is drained, what are we gonna do with the old coolant? And the new coolant inside the system working its way around the engine, I put in the old coolant in the old bottle, and we can recycle this and take it to our local parts store because they can recycle this properly. You don't want to throw this in the grass. You don't want to throw it away in a drain. It's toxic. It's dangerous for animals. It's dangerous for small children. So please properly recycle your old fluids. It's highly recommended that you keep some extra coolant in the trunk with you. Check it for the next couple of days to a week. Make sure that there's no more air bubbles and that the coolant level hasn't dropped. If it has dropped, just add some more coolant and you'll be good to go. So you see in the right hand, this is our new coolant, and the left hand is our old coolant. It might be hard to tell, but in person, this is discolored, which means the additives, the deposits, the substances that keep your engine cool have deteriorated after a long period of time. And this is our new fluid, so it's fresh, it's clean, all the additives and the deposits are very strong. Guys, that's really it to this video. It's really easy to flush your own system. A normal dealership will cost you about $100, but we spent $40 on parts and we saved ourselves 60 bucks. It's that simple, and yes, you can do it. Thank you guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please smash that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one.